शुभम आनंद मंगल मंगलम आनंद मंगल मंगलम नित प्रियम भारत भारतम नित प्रियम भारत भारतम नित प्रियम भारत भारतम नित प्रियम भारत भारतम.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is Anil Kumar, President of Institutions Innovation Council, NMAM at Nitte. I'm here to just give a brief note on what is actually this program all about to begin with. This is actually a part of the event which we are going to organize under Institutions Innovation Council. Now, Institution Innovation Council is actually a tag given to any higher education institutions once it is joined or registered under Ministry of Education Council for Innovations. So now it is abbreviated as MIC. So where MIC will going to register for higher education institutions who are engaging continuously the activities which is related to entrepreneurship, innovation, and IPR. So we are one among them, and the part of the IISc. So we are organizing the event today. So we are happy to announce that the most important and most the initiation of the IISc 3.0 was through this panel discussion. So this is on Atmanirbhar Bharat, challenges and opportunities for society. So for this, we have requested a panelist to be discussed on this event. We are lucky to have the most important two panelists as the esteemed panelist for this event. And with the for the benefit of the audience, I would like to introduce our panelists. The most important, the first guest here is Dr. Vasudev Kalkunte Atre, well known as V.K. Atre. So Dr. V.K. Atre was born in 1939 in Bangalore, where he also spent most of his childhood and formative years. He obtained his BE from UVCE, then under Mysore University in 1961, ME from Indian Institute of Science in 1963, and PhD from University of Waterloo, Canada in 1967, all in electrical engineering. He worked as professor of electrical engineering at Technical University of Nova Scotia, Canada, from 1968 to 1980. He was also a visiting professor at the IISc in 1977. In 1980, he joined Defense Research and Development Organization, we call it as DRDO of India. Dr. Atre worked in India's Ministry of Defense in various capacities for 24 years. He started his career in DRDO as a Principal Scientific Officer from 1980 to 1984. Subsequently, he became the Director of Naval Physical Oceanographic Laboratory from 1984 to 1991. The Chief Controller from 1991 to 1999, and finally led the organization as a Director General and Scientific Advisor to Defense Minister from 1999 to 2004. During this long period of dedicated service, he designed and developed sonar suits for surface ships, submarines, warfare system for the Indian Army, Navy, as well as Air Force, and he established GAA's Mimic Fabrication Facility and VLSI Design Center for Ministry of Defense. Dr. Atre is also the founding president of the Institute of Smart Structures and Systems. It is abbreviated as ISSS and has been running national program on smart materials and MEMS. He has published over 60 papers in the fields of active filters, digital signal processing, and defense electronics, and has written a book entitled Network Theory and Filter Design, published by John Willey and Sons. He is a fellow of IEEE USA and National Academy of Engineering India. He is a distinguished fellow of IETE India and several other societies. And Dr. Atre is the recipient of prestigious Padma Bhushan and Padma Vibhushan Award of Government of India. So it is just a brief note as his service is still on. And with this brief introduction, I'll just move on to our another panelist of today's the discussion on Atmanirbhar. That is Mr. Mohan BV is the Chief Expert, Head on Technology Strategy, Innovation and Incubation, RBE ETS Bangalore. Mohan BV is a Chief Technical Expert in areas of engineering solutions and telematics at BOSC, India. He is an engineering graduate from Mysore University and holds a master degree from BITS Pilani. He has 22 plus years of industry experience in varied fields: computer telephony, software engineering, software management, connected solutions focused on FOTA, productions line, ECU, SW updates, and telematics ecosystem. He currently heads the technology strategy team under the innovation and incubation business entry at RBEI, primarily focused on technology solutions for critical programs acquired and future proofing RBI with a new age technology topics relevant in strategic term for business in the space of blockchain, artificial intelligence, IoT, conversational systems, computational technologies, or it can be edge or cloud, or even a quantum or a multi-party. He is a practicing solution architect, consultant internal at customer teams, and mentors the technical community in RBI in the areas of data sciences, digital solutions, telematics, and engineering transformations. Playing the role of an expert technical entrepreneur, his key contributions have been to architect and incubate innovative products and solutions for BOSS and its customers. There are some key areas of expertise of Mr. Mohan: enterprise architecture, distributed ledger technology, AI-driven applications, web and cloud technologies, and IoT protocols. And he also has some consultation and advisory, which I'll be mentioning very few key points in that. That is digital transformation with technology intervention involving blockchain and AI and IoT, data-driven ecosystems in space and data sciences, analytics, connected ecosystems, manufacturing and automotive, telematics, end-to-end value chain, engineering tool chain, including enterprise integration. With this, a brief introduction about our well-resourced person of today's panel discussion as an external panelist. So we have with us our internal panelist, Dr. Shashikant Karinka, Professor and Head of the Department of Mechanical Engineering, NMAM at Nitte, and his expertise in industry's various infrastructures, and is also going to have his brief note on his experience with the industry while in the panel discussion. And along with him, we have our moderator for today's panel discussion, Dr. Rekha Bhandarkar, HOD of Electronics and Communication Department, NMAM at Nitte. So with this a brief introduction about today's event, so I will ask our moderator to take over the panel. Thank you, one and all.
Miss Rekha, you're talking on mute.
Madam, you have to unmute. Your audio is muted. Madam? Rekha madam, your audio is muted.
A very good afternoon to all of you. Warm greetings from NMAM Institute of Technology. Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, or Self-Reliant India campaign, is the vision of New India envisaged by the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. On 12 May 2020, our Prime Minister raised a clarion call to the nation, giving a kickstart to the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. While addressing the nation, the Prime Minister underlined the vision to make India Atmanirbhar amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, based on the foundation of 5 pillars comprising economy, infrastructure, technology-driven system, vibrant demography, and demand. In order to materialize this vision and provide a liquidity boost to the Indian economy for recouping with the loss caused due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, the Government of India had announced a special economic package of rupees 20 lakh crores, which is around 10% of the GDP of the Indian economy. The Prime Minister said this package would play an important role in making India self-reliant. He also said that self-reliance was the only way to make the 21st century belong to India. The tagline, "Vocal for Local," started trending, and many critics attributed this initiative to jingoism. So what is Atmanirbhar Bharat? What are the challenges and opportunities for the society? This is the central theme of our panel discussion today. Over to our first speaker, Dr. V.K. Atre. I request you to kindly present your views, sir.
Good afternoon. Over the last several years, India is striving to become a developed country. It has clearly indicated its ambitions to become a world power. A country can become a world power only if it becomes an economic power, and perhaps to some extent a military power also. The talk about self-reliance, trillion-dollar economy, Make in India is all put together on India, how India performs. So let's first look at where we are. What have we done? One of the metrics is what's the country's contribution to global GDP. If you look at the global GDP, 25% of the contribution comes from United States, 15% from China, 6% from Japan, about 5% from Germany. India is less than 3%. One other metric and the way evaluated is how well we do the equipment production. In the most recent SIPRI report, that is Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, evaluated the top 25 defense production equipments. China has 4 in the top 25. India has none. So you must look at the global, where we are. If India has to break into this group, India has to dominate in science and technology. Because science and technology are the engines which drive the progress and prosperity of a country. To dominate in science and technology, I often talk about 3 I's: invention, innovation, and industrialization. The 3 various sectors which do this is, one is clearly the academic institution, where the idea gets seeded, R&D institution, where the idea gets innovated into a possible product, and finally an industry which productionizes it a marketably profitable product. If there is a synergy among all these 3, then and then only the country can talk about trillion-dollar economy, world power, and self-reliance. We produce outstanding academic students. No wonder. Most of the world's leading R&D institutions have their major centers in India, especially in Bangalore. However, we don't have outstanding institutions. Very few of them are outstanding institutions. If you look at our institutions itself, recently there was an evaluation from Nature, an internationally known magazine, on about science cities. Among the top 100, there are only 2 Indian science cities, Bangalore and Calcutta. Whenever I visit university campuses, I keep hearing we produce a lot of papers. True, the number of papers is large. But there is an index called Highly Referred Article Index, HRA. US comes at 1.7, China comes at 1.5, India comes at 0.7 and lower. So you see, if you want to really talk about self-reliance, we have to build outstanding academic institutions. That is the first challenge we have. In building those, the challenges are we have to fund them sufficiently. The funding of the Indian universities is insufficient. And there are no benevolent donors in India yet. Not only should fund them, we should give them autonomy to operate without interfering, so they can produce highly talented, innovative, disciplined, committed, and professional workforce. India has some way to go. Look at our R&D. Our R&D budget is about 0.6 to 0.8% of GDP. We must grow it to at least 2%, if not 4% over the years. That is why India is yet to produce a product which is worldwide known. So you can't talk about self-reliance without producing products which others are going to buy. Our industries are doing well. Shown how it can be done. IT is doing tremendously well, pharmaceuticals is tremendously well, but in the hardcore engineering technology-oriented industries, we don't do that well. That is why in SIPRI report, we don't appear in the first 25. Our industries must accept this partially cooked, partially mature technology which is coming out of universities and research institutions and convert them to products. This is what it is. India has been talking about self-reliance for the last 3 to 4 decades. I distinctly remember in 1960, or rather 1990s, when we were looking at the 15-year perspective plan of services and research institutions in India, Kalam and others submitted a paper to the government on how to look at self-reliance. At that stage, we were having a ratio of 70 to 30. 70% import and 30% indigenous. The idea was to convert it to 30-70. Also, there was a roadmap indicated and asked the government, but over the last 25 years, nothing much has happened. So the self-reliance, made in India, trillion-dollar economy should not become just buzzwords. We must build outstanding academic institutions and provide a kind of environment which is conducive to innovative engineering. We must provide them sufficient infrastructure and funds. And our industries must be looked at and go away from the culture of licensed production. The other thing is India's attitude towards technology and excellence. We are very good followers. We are superb followers of technology. But are we creators of technology? Are we innovators of technology? We have enough. If you look at all around the world, majority of the innovations these days, there is an Indian at the hub of that innovation. So we are very highly talented people, very highly innovative people. But as a country, we are not becoming innovative. So if you want to talk about self-reliance, you must look at all the 3 sectors, academic institutions, R&D institutions, and build them. We also have to change our attitude. When you go to a field to play a game, you must play to win. It's not enough if you just have to play. So India's route to self-reliance is not because of lack of talent. We have super amount of talent. Fortunately, in the last few years, there has been a good move. Startups are doing very well. Indians are doing very well everywhere. Our universities are slightly becoming much more well organized to provide the kind of education that is necessary for science and technology. But science and technology alone is not enough. There has to be policy changes. As I said, the government should not interfere with the university atmosphere. University must be allowed to find its own niche. All universities cannot be experts in every field. They will find their own level and do that, first thing. And go away from meddling with the universities. Leave them free. Provide them sufficient funds. Funding is another important issue. There is no dearth of talent. And I have a feeling within the next 10 years, you will see a phenomenal change. But also you must remember, when you say make in India, it should be created in India, designed in India, fabricated in India, and sold by India. It's not enough if we just manufacture it. A country like India cannot live by only manufacturing or service industries. Our service industries are doing very well. So if you want to talk about Atmanirbhar and self-reliance and all that, we must, across the field, look at academic institutions, R&D institutions, and look at how they can be synergized. The industry's interaction with the universities has got to phenomenally increase. That is the crux of what it is. It can be done. When I was in DRDO, we made our own sonars. We sold sonars across the world. We have built LCA. We have built Mangalyana, Chandrayana. So we are perfectly capable of doing it, provided we put the acts together. So there is nothing wrong with what we have got. But the question of integration, question of synergizing all these efforts, that is important. I hope this new move towards Atmanirbhar will put these things together and will come out as shining colors. We have no choice. We have approximately another 10 years' time. Either we make it, look at what China did. But you must set goals. Like when China decided to host the World Olympics, it decided to win 200 medals. It did win 200 medals. So we must set such goals. Goal setting is another problem in India. If you do that, we have enough talent, enough youngsters, enthusiastic youngsters, innovative youngsters. But can we put their efforts together? That's our challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now invite Mr. Mohan BV to kindly present his views.
Yeah. First of all, I want to check, am I audible enough?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
I would like to share my desktop and I'm not able to share. May I know what is the reason? Yeah. Let me know once you're able to see my screen.
We're able to see it, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Atre, for your wonderful insights and how you see from your lens India need to get ready towards Atmanirbhar. And I think this is not a new way of doing things. I think we knew this, but are we acting enough was the question that you reiterated very strongly. What I would like to take is how industry or when we call off multinational companies back in home, how do we look at to support the Atmanirbhar? Maybe we don't support directly in the areas of defense or civics activities of the country, but we definitely support in the industrial activities of the country. And how do we bring products from India to the global world? That's the focus that I would like to talk about here. So Dr. Athre spoke about 3I principle, and here I'm going to go on the innovations I of the topic with the industry. So one of the key goals that we had set a couple of years back is to make Bosch India an innovation hub for the world. So Bosch roughly manages to file around 200 patents a year, and we want to at least become 10% of it. From last 3 years, we have been doing this. So with this being said, we will talk about how I'll split my talk into two parts. One, how Bosch looks into this, and second, our views of how we can apply it into Atmanirbhar strategy. First of all, I like to introduce. We are based out of Bangalore as a headquarters, but you see in India we have two main centers, Bangalore and Coimbatore, and then we have development centers across the globe. When I say development centers across the globe, it is Bosch India managing this development center. So I'll talk about the connection of we managing global things also in the context of Atmanirbhar as we go. Let me first then bring an analogy of level playing field. See, in the past, we went through different revolutions, right? We had agricultural revolution, industrial revolution. Now we call what we call as high-tech revolution. Now, due to various reasons, probably in the industrial revolution era, we lost out on dominating the world. Reasons being we were ruled by somebody, our own dynamics in the country, kind of things. But we see that this high-tech revolution is where it's a level playing field for all of us. It's dominated by software, it's dominated by artificial intelligence and digital technologies. And this is where we have the highest possibility to actually dominate the world in this sense. But is it easy? We'll see how others are dominating this and are we getting ready for that? And that's the main tone of my conversation today. So you see this funnel, it's a typical management funnel. And when we look at our career aspects, majority of us inclined to be on the job side of things once we finish our education. And then we turn out, some part of us turn out to be professionals or expertise. I'm not talking of becoming an engineer to a manager kind of a thing. It's actually having a deep technical content. And then this expertise actually then convolutes into the thought leadership. Basically, some of us become entrepreneurs, run organizations for the country, or represent our country, researchers like Dr. Atre himself on this call, and innovators. While we do so, we also see that the impact is actually on the other side. So are we building enough thought leaders in the country who have the required exposure of the industry? Mostly we export our knowledge, but what are the steps that we are taking here to retain this is the key question that we need to ask. And in that, I would say that as a member of RBEI or the Bosch India family, we are trying hard to ensure that the products out of India reach out to the globe. I'll give some examples there. Let me then switch the context also to how we are doing differently than probably what countries like China, and we have also seen some extreme countries using the digital technologies. Our core mantra is digital for humankind. We see AI, machine learning, deep learning, many of these disrupting technologies are being used in military warfare and many other things. But we see that India can excel and also win over hearts if we focus towards digital for humankind. While we strengthen our defense mechanisms as things where we have focused approach, we also see that the digital for humankind plays a very pivotal role in us both emotionally as well as technically leading the world. The second key aspect is while we do these technologies, are we focused on sunrise topics or are we looking at topics like a very normal service oriented topics? We are known for cost arbitration. We are a low cost center. So are we still focused towards that as we move along in the industry, or do we look at sunrise topics is the key aspect that we need to see. So to be part of the sunrise topics, innovation is the key. So every organization today speaks about innovation. Are we getting it right? What are the key aspects that we can get innovation right in the context of our country? So let us also understand that. And then I would also like to touch upon the self-reliance aspects. I think what we had took up self-reliance, it was not done in the context of Atmanirbhar. It was more a self-reliance for us as an organization in India. Just to reiterate, Bosch has around 128 location centers across the globe. Bosch in India is the biggest software center for the Bosch worldwide. not just from the sheer number of people, that's obviously a default denominator, but also in the amount of core software which goes into the products of Bosch, be it into your automobile, be it into your consumer electronics, power tools, smart cities, camera systems, security cameras. Many of our parliament houses are supported by our cameras. Most of the software actually goes out of Indian teams. But while we are doing so, to sustain the growth levers, it's very relevant for us to have expertise at our level. Today, we are only supporting at the level of development. Future proofing and future workforce are the key mantra that we have taken up. Globalization to localization. So, are we building products for ourselves? So, I'll talk about some of the products that we have built for ourselves. Focus on specialization. I think Dr. Atre emphasized that aspect. And not just look at the cost models and commodity manufacturing, but look at specialized outcomes. Also, why is that very relevant? We also saw that because few of the countries were much ahead in us in manufacturing, even when we engineer a core product, many of our products were not seeing the light of the day because our manufacturing setup, the supply chain setup, the sourcing setups were so weak, and it is still weak. I think that's a key area that we need to strengthen. And just to summarize, the future wars will not be fought by guns, but on the cyber systems. So that's going to be the mantra. So if we are strong there, if we know how to counter there, if we know how to dominate there, that's when we stay relevant and stay self-reliant. So then I would like to talk about a core aspect as a mathematical equation, that we need to show the tech intensity. We heard that China not just put their goals, but also achieved it. So how do they do that? That all comes from intensity, sense of urgency, sense of responsibility. How we want to bring that into motion is tech adoption. See, the new age technologies are not easy to be adopted. People still talk of legacy. People still talk of why should I invest in new age technologies? What is the differentiation? What it brings? Is it just for consumer electronics? No, it's actually for doing all the day-to-day business. Should it be dominated by the systems coming from the Western world, or do we build such a system? So the tech adoption becomes the most important critical path, and it gets amplified by the capability of the technology to actually get into every home. We know the mobile phones have the domination, but now that we have that penetration, can you use that more effectively than the social apps what we have today? So can we do the businesses? Can we close transactions on the devices that we use rather than we getting into the transactions kind of a thing? So a lot of these things are gaining momentum, which is driving the world in terms of the trend. And as India, are we catching up the trend as a core question that was put on us? Me as a technology strategy responsible at RBEI, we have taken this as a key goal for us to say, are we catching up the right trend from our organization to stay relevant and to also future-proof RBEI and Bosch and our customers and partners? And to a level of amplification, this actually also is exponentially amplified by the factor of trust. Now we know that many of the countries, our own competing countries, have also the technology capabilities. They also have adoption possibilities, but are many countries going to trust them on by giving their data to them, by depending on their systems for their strategy making? Now that's the question that we need to say answer much better, because we are not just good in technology, but we also are good on the trust aspect of things. So can we leverage that? That becomes a key fulcrum for Atmanirbhar. Also, Dr. Atre touched upon the specializations. We just do not want to be on the last part of the value chain, but be from end to end. Now, to be at the end to end, it also means that we need to understand the IP part well. I'm talking to the university teams. You know, patenting and writing the white papers and publications is so relevant. But now, can we stop there? If you see, our IPs are actually nowhere near the number of IPs which come outside our country. Can we now look at not just IPs becoming a factor of a paper, or to say that I found a new way to solve a problem, but you can actually put an IP in front to say that the businesses should start coming into this patent, and we dominate from the way that these patents become the fundamental block for businesses. So we have seen countries like China, Alibaba Group, we know it very well. Even Flipkart is funded by Alibaba now. Such big groups who fund some of our economical scenarios like Paytm or Flipkarts. You see the amount of patents that they focus on and the trademarks what they focus on, due to which they dominate the business scenarios in the country. Also, you see Microsoft uses its patents. A lot of Microsoft, we feel Microsoft and Android are competitors. No, they actually compete at certain level. They collaborate at certain levels. Android uses majority of the Microsoft tools to bring Android to the professional world. And you see, by having so many patents, Microsoft amounts to more than 70% of the Android's market share. And you also see our own Indian consulting organization called Zinov, that the number of patents have gone drastically up for the last few years with the concentrated efforts. We need to keep growing there. Also, how are we doing as a company? I'd like to touch upon this. So basically, we do it across these four pillars. One is the knowledge pillar. So are we fundamentally part of the standardization committees and the forums which matter? So we participate in NASSCOM, Nitte Aayog, for example, the country's national AI white paper, which is getting written, part of the standardization committee like the BIS and the ISOs. We work with majority of the global technology companies and we bring that into our solutions, not just to use them for our solutions, but also to ensure that these technologies are well understood within our teams here locally. We are part of standardization bodies and technology forums like AutoZar. This is more relevant in the automotive world, and Eclipse, Ethereum, and Hyperledger Foundation. These are some of the leading digital technology forums where we are completely participating. One more very key important lever for us is the university lever. Our university relationship is growing year on year. We have made numerous MOUs. We run many projects with the best of the institutes in the country. And with this as a basis, we also tap into the talent of the country and ensure that they are nurtured well using a program what we call as DNA. So DNA stands for Discover, Nurture, and Align. It's basically the startup incubation program from RBI or Bosch. So basically, here is where every year more than 12 to 15 startups are actually nurtured and aligned to some of the businesses from the country. It's actually a local startup ecosystem. And how do we do this? We do this by ensuring that we understand the domains well. So what's important when we get into the corporate world also is to understand the domains where we need to operate very well from the theoretical and the technical knowledge what we are going to possess from our universities. So to do that effectively, we have to understand where these technologies are impacting, and we also have to find intersection points where this impact can be amplified, and also ensure that that finally leads to certain business closures. So that's the key mantra with which we work. So and some of the products which are made from India for the global world, including consumption in India, I would like to highlight a few here. You can see on the below, we have iTrams. It is basically intelligent transport management system, completely conceptualized, designed, manufactured, and the entire software supply chain, including the software which goes on mobile application, on the web application, and the embedded system, including the embedded AI for this kind of a system going to an automotive to do a telematics ecosystem, to build a telematics ecosystem, was built out of the India Center. It's also manufactured in India. We had huge hurdles, as I told, in supply chain sourcing and so on, but luckily we have been able to solve those problems over the last 2 years now. Few of the other products what we have is in the climate sensing, Climo, energy sensing on Phantom. You can actually plug this in a non-invasive way and ensure that the energy consumption can be monitored, completely done out from Indian engineers. Two major contributions to the humankind, VivaScope and VivaScreen. These are two of our healthcare products, completely enabled through computer vision. The first one, VivaScope, is actually helping anemia detection in an easy way, digital way, because we don't have enough pathologists in the country to reach out to our rural areas. We have made this, and we also put this on the United Nations project journey to ensure that this reaches to the remotest of the places of the country and ensure that automatically with an autonomous function, you can actually do the testing to see how our people are getting what you call at least diagnosed. You'll be surprised to see that 70% of Indians are anemic. Can you believe? This was a statistics which was alarming for us that drove us to make this product. The second product, which is Viva Screen, this is a non-invasive product. You put your finger, it looks at your hemoglobin count, and it can give almost 21 parameters of the blood without any invasion. So now, why is that very important for us? It's very important because we see that India loses many women who are pregnant due to the lack of oxygen and hemoglobin content in their body. This can be easily solved through such plug and play systems. So this is something that we have localized for the country, and it's going from here actually also into the developed countries. You will be surprised to say even the wealthy nations are actually having people with high anemic rates today. So actually they're also now adopting. We first thought it's only for our local market for developing countries, but we see adoption also happening in the global market for this. So these are some of the things that I wanted to highlight. This is just a glimpse of what we did. We actually deployed these products in the Kumbh Mela last year, and it was very successful to get all the data and diagnosis. And many of the people who came in Kumbh Mela were diagnosed whether positive or negative to their anemic conditions. It was a very good experience for us. Of course, this was in the previous year, not the COVID year, but yeah, so it was a good exercise for us. We have done some agricultural products. Again, we are taking support of some of our esteemed universities like Indian Institute of Science here, where we run drones to find out the harvesting for many of our crops. This we are using in many regions, including in India and Peru. We have huge crops, and manually it's becoming very tough in today's labor world to actually diagnose and see what's happening towards the harvesting. So that we solve through a computer vision program using drones. So this is completely also done out of this country. And I think I'll skip this slide because I'm already reaching the end. I would like to end to say that India is a farming, country. Our majority of our economy is based on the farming sector. And I think Nitte Aayog or NASSCOM are doing wonderfully well to ensure that they bring the industry ecosystem, academia, and the researchers together here. This is one bit of this from our side. We call this as true food. So the commodities, the food elements which go out of the country, now can it have a better value when it reaches out, and we don't go through a lot of middlemen. The trust and the transparency and the digital transactions can be enabled much further. So this is something that we have built as a system, what we call as true food, for the produce which happens at India reaching out to the world, kind of a thing. So this is an example which we are proud of. And I would like to end by talking about a further read. I found this very interesting, which was recently released, Entrepreneurial Universities. This is a very good book. It brings a lot of insights, a lot of examples on how universities can think to be entrepreneurial. How can they be better corporate ready for the students who come out of the universities. And I would recommend this book, a wonderful book from Surja Datta. And yeah, so I think as Professor mentioned, Atmanirbhar is all about India for the world. It's not just about competition, but also to stay relevant for the world. And that we do, as Mr. Modi mentioned, on economy, infrastructure, system, demography, and demand pillars. Yeah, with that, I end my talk, and thanks for all the time. I took, I think, a few minutes more than allocated.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I request Dr. Shashikant Karankar to present his views.
First, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We had very nice input from fellow panelists, Dr. B.K. Atre and Mr. Mohan. It gives me a great pleasure to be panelist here, and I thank Professor Niranjan Chiplunkar for this opportunity. I am speaking on role of academics in building industry-ready graduates. Now, I would like to tell this, the impact of before globalization and after globalization, how the institutes of India behaved, how the industries behaved, what was the gap, can you overcome the gap, all those things I am going to narrate through my experiences of being in the premier institutes and then working in industry and coming back to the institute. So I have studied in government schools and premier institutes of the country and even abroad. I have academic teaching and research work experience and industry experience of working in government and private heavy engineering, R&D and manufacturing, including multinational Indian companies, and also worked for US company Navistar on a daily reporting basis. When I completed PhD in the year 1998, there were ample opportunities to join academic or research organizations, as the PhDs available during those days were finger counted in the country. However, I had an inclination to go for industry job, as I was not so happy with the contributions of the research work of the institutes. Let me tell you that the job was not easy in the industry, because PhD was always considered as an overqualification industry during those days, and the PhDs were treated very badly. My exposure to the IIT and industry showed me that way back in 1986 when I joined, IITs were leading in technology and industries were really lagging. And it was an era of 1980, 1990 and so. And this is what I can tell very firmly: IITs were leading and industries were lagging. Let me narrate with an experience of my own experience of vehicular emissions control. It was mandated by the UN that all countries must have stage-wise emission reduction of the vehicles from the year 1990 or so onwards. But what I saw, and it was my experience at IIT, that we were working on these technologies much before that it came as a law. But the problem was that when we, like as a graduate of the institute, applied, say, for a company, the company was rejecting that, and they were even sarcastic about that, saying that who will adopt this technology in India, who is interested in emissions control. But it happened in such a way that the Indian Supreme Court intervened by the public interest litigation of one famous lawyer, Mr. M.C. Mehta. That's what we saw. The emission legislation started happening in India, and whatever was required, because of the intervention of electronics and IT in the mechanical, fast emission reduction has been happening. So it was unthinkable when industries were saying in early 90s that who will adopt this technology in India, and there is a total change. It's a sea change that has happened in India. That means our industries who are working with outdated imported technologies. As Atre sir has said, we were just followers, we were not the leaders, and we were not having that leadership attitude. So once the globalization happened, the technology barriers removed, IT bloom happened, and the entire scenario got changed. I will not narrate what, why, where, and how of my experiences, but now I can say that when I was leaving the industry in the year 2013 and I was coming to academics, I can clearly say that the premier institutes of the country were lagging in technology and the Indian industries were leading. I have heard even a very senior industrialist telling, premier institute ko chhod do. That means there was tussle of owning the technology than its implementation. So much was the frustration probably. So what I want to say here is that whatever we do, whether IITs are leading in technology or industries are leading in technology, definitely there would be a gap between industry and the institute. Whether whoever is leading, there would be a gap. So the two going closer is really a problem. So I will come to that. Hence, what I can say that I have come a full circle. Both ways it is proved that there is a gap between industry and institute. However, I saw a noticeable change of the industry attitude with respect to higher studies people like PhDs. I saw there is a respectability in isolated pockets in the industry where PhDs are encouraged, and it was a sea change from where I had joined in 1998 and when I was leaving in 2013, PhDs were respected. Industries for survival and remaining leading need to continuously innovate, which comes through knowledge and skills, which is possible through a proper attitude. Hence, skill is the new mantra. How a human will acquire a new skill is the question mark. How one will acquire a new skill? It is possible through the concept of carrot and stick. The stick is the skill and the carrot is the acquired certificate or diploma or degree, which is a feather on the cap of the individual. Hence, a graduate must have the knowledge plus skill plus attitude, and also good communication skills too, to change continuously and add new skills through continuous or lifelong learning. If American thinker Alvin Toffler is to be believed, it is the time to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Hence, academics has to focus on building the skills. The academics has to teach modern tools in every course so that the graduate becomes industry ready. Otherwise, it is like storytelling, like Ramayana, and what is Rama to Sita, that's all. It will not teach how to build Brahmastra. It will not teach how to build Pushpaka Vimana. Hence, to build skills, industry and institutes have to closely work. So there has to be a two-way communication. The academics has to continuously benchmark to reach higher levels. It is possible. I am not saying it's not possible. To some extent, it is possible. So one can have industry-supported labs, industry experts in the board of studies, industry professionals as faculty members, industry project work, etc., which will help in bridging the gap and creating industry-ready graduates. Moreover, the student participating in professional society and club activities, including cultural and sports activities, appropriate internship and project work through mini projects or finishing school concept, and participating or competing in local, regional, national, international events will help the students to benchmark themselves and achieve high to reach expectations of the industry. Let us say, if the industry is not coming to the institute and if they are rightfully selfish, so what is wrong in that? They will be selfish. That is, and then is there an alternative? As it is difficult to bridge this gap, industry institute, as I told, what was in 86 and what was in 2013, when IIT or premier institutes were leading or industries were leading, there will be always a gap. So in such a situation, and we can't bring the industries closer to institute, what is the alternative? The only alternative is Atmanirbhar. We have to become self-reliant in the institute. How to build that self-reliant? Build industry in the institute through R&D, innovation and startups. The alternative is development of incubation centers in the institute. Let us be the leaders and not the followers, as Sir Atre sir has said. Let us not import the technology. I can tell you one example of myself. I was involved in renewable energy way back in 1986 until 1998 when I submitted my thesis, of course after MTech and PhD. And I had been part of PhD in Germany. And when I submitted 98, then for my own reasons, I had to leave renewable energy and work in the engines field. Then I left, okay, I changed from industry to industry, then I came to academics. And 2016, I was invited by University of Antwerp to give a guest lecture. At that time, I made it a point to visit Berlin, where my German professor or German PhD guide lived. So I met him. Then I told him, sir, can you take me to the some nearby university? Then he took me to University of Berlin, where he had studied. Then when I visited there, I saw whatever we had left out way back in our research work, they were doing. And it is very unfortunate that in India, I said I left in 1998 and in 2016, nobody worked on that technology to perfect it out. Actually, that technology is like space technology, biomass gasification, getting the gas without any tar or dust particle and running the internal combustion engine. But it was very unfortunate that to see that nobody worked on the technology to perfect the technology. So then I realized, yes, we will be the follower, not the leader. One day we will import that technology. So it is simple. Now let me tell, when we say Atmanirbhar, it is simple. Without investing money, we can't make money. So we have to invest money, then we have to make money. So research and development is investing money, and innovation is bringing back that money in a big way through startup and entrepreneurship. The students and the faculty members, when they work on contemporary or future technologies, there is no gap between the industry and the institute. Hence, innovation and startup is a great route for survival, which makes us self-reliant Bharat, or in other words, the Atmanirbhar Bharat. Thank you, all my friends. That is what all about when we say industry-ready graduates. This is what I have come to a conclusion based on all my academic and research and industry experience. And back in academics, I feel the gap between industry and institute, we can't bridge whatever we speak. But that is what the thing Atmanirbhar has come. I think that's a great thing one must work. Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Now it is time for questions. The first question is addressed to Dr. B.K. Atre. Which are the sectors in India which will benefit the most from Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative?
Can you repeat the question?
Sir, the sectors in India which will benefit from the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative.
No, I can't hear you. Your voice is breaking.
Sir, the sectors that will benefit from the Atmanirbhar initiative. Sectors in India. Okay, sir.
Sir, shall I repeat that question?
Yeah, please.
Yes,
The sectors that are going to be benefited by Atmanirbhar initiative.
Benefited by what?
Sector, the different sectors that are going to be benefited by Atmanirbhar.
Okay, okay. All right. Now I got it because your voice is, Rekha, your voice is breaking. I don't know why. Okay.
Yes.
Look, technology is all pervasive. There's nothing like a sector. What you have to do is look at what, if you want to produce wealth for the country, you have to produce products. As Mohan pointed out, you must be able to sell and make profit. If you cannot sell and make profit, there is no point of technology. So he talked about IP. India, we shy away from doing this. So let's put that all away. The first and foremost is we are virtually the largest weapon system importing country in the world. We must reduce our dependence on weapon system from outside. First thing. So that is a sector which should immediately get something. In agriculture, we are doing well, but we are still not using too much of technology for agriculture. We must start using technology for agriculture, and also, as obliquely Mohan pointed out, the artificial intelligence can enter into everything from sowing to product selling. So we must use technology to improve our productivity. We are doing well in pharmaceuticals. Why are we doing well in pharmaceuticals? Because we are manufacturing. Only now we have started producing. So what we should do is first entertain manufacturing facilities. On defense sector, we have to become self-reliant because we pour a lot of money for defense for outside India. You must also realize another thing. If you look at the technology growth in America, all the technology growth has been from either defense or NASA, aerospace sector. Somehow or the other in India, defense and aerospace sector hasn't fed anything back into the civilian sector. So that is where you should begin with here. So to integrate the system. So there is no singularity. And also, you cannot say this technology is not necessary. 30 years back, if somebody had asked me, is cell phone technology going to be acceptable in India, I would have said, even laughing, when we don't have food and everything else, why we talk about cell? Today, cell phone technology is growing. But are you manufacturing any cell phones? No. So you cannot say this sector and that sector and so on. You must look at the base thing. But I will tell you the two fundamental sectors which you have to strengthen. Material sciences, because it's going to be used everywhere. Electronics, including software, everywhere. We are doing well in software. But virtually in electronics, we don't do anything. We import all components. We have not even established a foundry after 70 years. Even if you want a small thing, we them. So you must look at that. And you follow the principle of auto industry. They started selling. Now, a lot of auto parts are getting manufactured in India, as Mohan pointed out. So many of the electronics gets assembled in India. Even if you don't get the fundamental build blocks, I have a feeling that technology will go only with aerospace and defense. Because there is money in it, the government will put money in that. You must use this to civilian technologies. Today, virtually all material technology has come from aerospace. Composites, plastics, and everything. I think Shashikant would be well aware of that. Everything comes from these two spaces. So on the other hand, okay, should we concentrate on laser technology? At present, not necessary. You can use them, but you cannot specialize in all technologies. That's my answer. There is nothing like a sector.
Yes. Thank you, sir. This question is for Mr. Mohan BV. What is your advice to young students who have a dream to start their own setups but are haunted by the fear of failure?
See, today, I think gone are those days when we were out of the college. Yeah, we also attempted a couple of startup things, and we partially we succeeded, partially we didn't succeed. But today that fear is minimalized because the money factor and the impact of money is a bit reduced. So I think we are self-sufficient to a certain extent. So taking that into account, we also need to see that whatever we set up as a startup should have a clear differentiators. We are emotionally kind of excited to make something new, but are we making something new which can sustain? Can that be converted into a business? Otherwise, it becomes happy engineering. So we are very good at that. We do it from a hobby perspective, just because our heart is there, but we don't use our minds well. So when heart and minds come together is when we can see a better success. So I would say get better advisors. Don't do it all by yourself. No heroics is going to take us long. Have good advisors. Have good organizations recognize what you are trying to do. So that's why even when you are building a prototype, even before you invest large, you need to be discovering whether this makes sense for business. Always have this business orientation. And third, no need to fear. I think today's ecosystem has possibility to cushion you a bit, both from monetization perspective. NASCOM 100 startups, wonderful ecosystem. Have use the ecosystem. I don't think there is a dearth of ecosystem today. It's about our focus to stay relevant, to stay differentiated from what others are building. Otherwise, why would somebody work with a startup? Because they bring that nicheness into the huge organizations and enterprises what they build over decades. So are you building that is the question that we need to ask. Then I think don't need to fear. The fear factor would be gone.
Thank you, sir.
Rekha, may I add a comment here?
Yes, sir.
May I add a comment?
Sure, sir.
Yeah, please.
I just want to stress something which didn't come out explicitly in what Mohan was presenting. The small scale and medium scale industry's role in technology development is phenomenal.
Right.
If you look at the Silicon Valley, there are a few major companies, but there are a number of startups, number of small scale industries, number of MSMEs, so-called MSMEs. In India, for a long time, we looked at big manufacturers. The MSMEs were all restricted to services. For example, when you had an ambassador car, you could have stopped ambassador car anywhere on the road, anywhere in India, that a young boy who wore a shabby-looking dress could repair an ambassador car. So he had equipped the thing. So the so-called small-scale industries and medium-scale industry, like startups, should be promoted. We are doing well. Bangalore has a number of startups, but not enough. And the startups should somehow be venture capitalists doing. Startups somehow should be supported. Big industries will do systems, but somebody has to give the components and devices to that systems. That comes from MSMEs. India's the MSME role is not fully exploited. I want to tell you one simple thing. When we looked at the missile program, about 30 to 35% of the actual hardware came from a group called DEMA, Defense Electronics Manufacturing Association in Pune. All of them were small. What were they? DC to DC converters, relays, the switches, connectors, cables. The total amount consumed 30% of the missile components. So it is the startups which could do. Startup did not look like huge one. And the other thing which Mohan pointed out, don't hesitate collaborating. In India, we want to do everything ourselves. Self-reliance doesn't mean self-sufficiency. Collaborate. Have a group. Interact. If you must have heard of a company called Embraer, which manufactures aircrafts. Now you go to the Embraer factory, nothing gets manufactured in that factory. Only it gets assembled in that factory. Electronics comes from Honeywell, structures come from somewhere, engine comes from Rolls-Royce, displays come from somewhere. These guys put together, it's the Embraer which makes the profit. So look at collaborations. Don't hesitate collaborating. Even in research. You notice how this point of single point research has gone. Collaboration. So startups, small groups are very important. I thought I would append that, those aren't directly available to the question, but that is why companies like Bosch and others are doing well. They take technology anywhere and put them into their system and make it a product.
Thank you, sir. This question is for Dr. Shashikant Karinka. How much do you think the national education policy will contribute towards making India more self-reliant?
What I understand, what I understand from the new education policy is that it is having flexibility as well as more focus on research and skills. So, so these are all the things like when we talk of Atmanirbhar, they are all the things very much required. Sir, as said, the three I's: innovate, invent, innovate, and sir has said the three I's. So, what I say,
Invent, innovate, industrialize.
industrialize. So automatically when we invest more on R&D, then that is what will lead to innovation. And naturally, when we do that, we bring in more money and more jobs will automatically happen. So what I understand from new education policy, there is a lot of flexibility. Like if somebody wants to have limited education or more, anything is possible in that aspect. So that's how we will become more self-reliant. Sir, anybody else would like to add? Please add to this.
I want to give a small episode about a decade or so back. The undergraduate students of MIT in Cambridge, Massachusetts, did a small project. The project looks rather useless. What they did was they caught hold of all the fireflies, which produce light, And somebody got an idea, why is that they produce only one colored light? So they took the enzyme out of the fireflies, put some nanoparticles to change the color, and put the enzymes back in the fireflies. Suddenly you found different kinds of nanoparticles give different kinds of color. Suddenly you found a room full of fireflies for all colors. You may say this is a useless research, but look at the innovation. So whenever you look at a product, look at what is that you can do better. If you are teaching the same course, every time think, what is that you can add to make this little more, little better, little different from what you were teaching previously. So every year you teach the same course, you should do the same thing. You can put a different thing. If you do an experiment, add something extra. That's how innovation gets built up. So innovation is something which is present in all of us. We must somehow express it to make it into a product. Finally, productization, you must sell. If you don't make profit, what's the use of technology? So don't hate a company which makes profit. A company must make profit. By definition, otherwise it's not a company.
I would like to just add a small thing there, Professor Rekha. We have to learn from some successful government-led initiatives supporting university cause in other regions. One of the things what I have seen, okay, I'm not talking of US. I think we have heard enough how US supports a lot of these things. One important thing for us to learn is from European Union. It's called as Horizon 2020 programs. So please look into Horizon 2020 programs from European Union. And there they have a specific charter for universities. It's not just about funding. It's not just about recognition. It's about finding the right problems that which universities can get into. Because universities usually are more research oriented, right? So the early research to ensure that gets into the applications, European Union has this wonderful program. I think that's something that we can learn from. And in fact, one of the biggest problems we faced when we were working on technologies like AI, blockchain is, as you know, you need enormous computational power. Even if you deploy it on cloud, the cloud providers make merry of money that we are going to spend, not to run the systems, but even to start developing the systems. But if you see what European Union did is they found a program called Grid 5000, and many European universities run this network. And we as corporates, we get onto that network, but universities actually make certain, not just on the financial front, but also on the learning front, on the use cases that industry brings by being part of the journey. So we have to use such industry corporate relationships with university, clubbed with government things as a combination. That's why I go with Dr. Atre's mantra on collaboration. How can we nurture this in a way that you can make a difference? So that cannot be done in silos.
Sir, I have a question for you only. What is it that you look for when you're looking for collaboration with universities?
See, the point is when we look at collaboration from universities, I would actually put a fulcrum around the faculty. So when we engage always with the universities, of course, the students are there to come and learn from the corporates. They do their internships, projects, and then also get employed at corporates. But what is important that we have to plow, are we plowing it back into the university? And for that, who is going to be the connect? The connect has to be the faculty. So our faculty is getting enough into the corporate engagements, not just to have a discussion and expose the students to them, but actually are they getting into the content of the programs? Can we say, can a faculty become a project manager for an intern program? I'm just giving you a dimension. So if the professors start looking at being a program manager for a internship program, then they know how to revolve the students around them. They know what to expect from and to the corporates, and they actually then build that knowledge back to the next generation. So that's one thing that I would like to highlight, that we can probably do better in the internship assignments that we work together.
Thank you, sir.
Rekha, one comment.
Yes, sir.
When you say collaboration, if industry gives a project to a student, either advanced, senior year projects or MTech project, in many of the universities, only the student is involved. The teacher is not involved. What happens is when student gets involved with the industry and student, if they're doing well, the student goes on industry and you have lost the contact. So whenever there is an industrial contact with your industry, your faculty must be involved in the industry. So that continues on a basis. And you can make different kinds of contributions. Find out what they want. And the way collaboration works, I want to give an example. All of you must be familiar with MATLAB.
Yeah.
Okay? MATLAB is not generated by one person. MATLAB was started from a North Carolina State University. Somebody decided to do something for signal processing first. Then slowly it grew. Everybody contributed. Somebody gave their algorithm. Somebody gave some other algorithm. Today, virtually, there is no engineering profession which doesn't use MATLAB. Yeah. FEM analysis people, mechanical engineers, aerospace engineers, electronic engineers, MEMS engineers, nano engineers, all use MATLAB. So MATLAB is a collaborative success. I have a feeling India could have developed its own MATLAB. We have enough talent around, enough know-how around. We could have written our own, adapted it to our own system if we wanted. So we didn't do it because we didn't collaborate. At one stage, Indian students developed a software called Vinyas for the chip design. Bits and pieces were missing between ITI and Indian students, but they dropped it. When I was in Delhi, I tried to promote them. Develop your own. You don't expect this to be compete with what Microsoft or others are doing, but slowly grow it up. You keep on adding pieces. The first one will fail, second will partially succeed, third one will succeed, fourth one will become excellent, and fifth one will become perhaps the single most important issue. Collaboration doesn't necessarily mean it's a short-term duration. It keeps on growing. If you do that, that's how you go. Even in university teaching, if you are teaching tomorrow nanosystems, why should only one professor teach? Why don't you a group of you from chemical engineering, physics, or electronics, and mechanical engineering put together and teach? Each one brings their own point of view. And the course will look at much more attractive for the students rather than standing as a bookish knowledge. So when you say cooperation, there can cooperate in much different ways. Can be done at university level, can be done at industries level, can be developed at the algorithm level. And look at your workshop. Your workshop is organized by a number of people, not organized by one. So that is what cooperative. Be open.
So there is a bottleneck with collaboration with the industry. Though faculty is involved, at some point confidentiality comes into the picture. So the student tells us that this is confidential. I cannot explain things on you, things to you. So that is where we have a bottleneck.
More than again, it's a self-bought-in bottleneck because we see cyber security, particularly when you're working in software, confidentiality, privacy. These are the important things that everybody has to care for. It's not just about university or corporate. Everybody will care for that. Now, if you have the right answers to that, and you're anyway on an NDA, you're anyway on the MOU with the industry, you are governed by certain contracts. But are we respecting that in spirit? We try to do this on the contract, but finally we see a computer connected to the internet with no firewalls or anything is where the data is dumped onto. So do we have the required discipline to manage this? That's the crux, more than telling yes or no to the way we want to do. There are ways, but are we adopting that is the question.
Sir, Atre sir, I have a question for you. What do you think needs to be done to make the economy more dynamic and more resilient in the rural parts of India? What do you think needs to be done to make the economy more dynamic and resilient in the rural parts of India?
Sir is muted. Muted.
I'll tell you. I'll give an example first. 1980, when I joined India, India was under embargo. Embargo in the sense, electronic components were not given. For example, we couldn't buy a 14-bit multiplier, a to D converter, 16-bit multiplier, and so on. So we had to develop everything on our own. You heard that we developed our own supercomputers when the computer was banned for India. So we did that, but as soon as the ban removed, we stopped developing. We started importing things. The economy will grow. There was a time when there was a cult called NMDC, which used to give awards for import substitution awards in India. I don't know how many of you younger generation may not be familiar. That is, if you're importing a servo motor, if somebody can manufacture a servo motor and give it to you, you get an award called Import Substitution Award. What a country should do is decide what sort of niche areas. For example, one of the niche areas in India is clearly software, because we are very good in software and IT-related industries. That produces a certain amount of wealth. But that will go only far. So if you want to produce wealth, you must become the right kind of technologies. Today, China has become the second most important country for aeronautics industry. 20 years back, aeronautics industry didn't exist in India. In India, rather in China. In India today, the aeronautics technology is only with HAL. Doesn't help. HAL is a public sector undertaking, whether they will be driven by profit or immaterial, they do it for services. So you must look at the areas where you are going to develop. One area where India is going to dominantly require a lot of work is, in passing, Mohan pointed out, is biomedical instrumentation. You see, India requires a large amount of biomedical instrumentation work because our cities are concentrated and the service necessary and something. There are what are called point of care test kits. If you can manufacture point of care kits, which are chips, which can be used for quick diagnostics, it helps India. So producing wealth by number of means is essential. And one must also look at no technology, you don't know how the interplay of technology works. As I said today, the sensor technology can be used for agriculture. Dampness, temperature sensor, nitrogen sensor, all of them based on 3 or 4 sensors. Can we put them to different kinds of use? Clearly, defense technology has to be developed. Defense and aerospace technology. Because aerospace technology goes from materials technology composites and other kinds of materials, electronic technology, structures technology, integration technology, display technology, software technology. So if a country becomes dominant in defense and aerospace technology, it is going to dominate in all other technology. Medical technology is an offshoot. Again, it's sensor-based, compactness-based, reliability-based, efficiency-based, sensitivity-based. So you can put them together and develop. So there is nothing like a single kind of technology. Which technology you dominate is different. As I said, a university will not be proficient in all fields. It will be proficient in one or two fields. You go to Caltech is dominant in fluid mechanics and aerospace engineering. MIT is dominant in the computers, haptics, AI, and this kind of technologies. So you must find out your niche and develop that. Okay?
So there's a question from the participant. This is Dr. Ajit Bale from Mechanical Engineering Department, NMAM. How do you see a possibility of getting more Indian brands look and feel like global brands? How to make Indian brands look like global brands?
I think Mohan should answer this question. Mohan is probably more familiar with this kind of thing. Mohan, can you answer that question?
Actually, we are attempting the other way. How can global brands look forward to India as making world-class products? So, see, why do we have to always mimic? We have to learn. I'm not saying we should not learn. Why do we want to mimic the other side? We are good in certain things. Second, I spoke about the sunrise, just extending what Dr. Atre was talking, sunrise topics. See, today the biggest, I'll tell you, the differentiator which is going to come is on the computation. So today we have bought the best of the computers onto our mobile phone now. It has all the capabilities. But are we thinking quantum? I'll just give you an example. Quantum is going to disrupt a lot of these technologies, and we are going to spend enormous money to counter that. And again, we do not have the technology. Is anybody even thinking of that? We know C.V. Raman Institute in Bangalore has the best of the professors coming together year on year on the quantum program. But apart from writing software for quantum, we have no technology here. We have not even built 8-qubit machines in India to counter China or a US mode of innovation which is happening from universities. More than a dozen universities have come together in these countries, not one university, to build this technology. And today you see domination of quantum is happening in those countries, and tomorrow we'll again go back to them to get those technologies. So when we know there are sunrise topics, why are we hesitating to be on the futuristic technologies and ask investments for the sunrise topics rather than the topics of today? Because then you can actually put India onto the future track. At this moment, we are trying to do a catch-up game. So if the catch-up game can be done through collaboration, better do it that way. And also look at sunrise topics to become self-reliant. So that's what I would like to add. So my small advice is always don't like to mimic, try to mimic. Indian brands are good enough. There are many examples, numerous examples to say how we are better brands. Probably what we lack is a bit of focus and the way we are business oriented. If these two are strengthened, then I think don't need to worry about that aspect.
So we'll take up one last question.
Rekha, I want to add one thing here.
Yes, sir.
Everything is in a sense mimicking. We have learned everything which has already been done by somebody. But I will give you a parallel example. Two professors who teach through the same textbook need not teach identically. They have their own innovation to be brought into the system. So even when you mimic something, you can build something extra, something different. A different method of thinking, a different method of implementation.
Right.
So this is where innovation counts. Because you have to make a product which somebody will buy. If you make an identical product, then you must make it cheaper. If you don't want to make it cheaper, make your product slightly different. Something it does one or two things better than the other ones. But most of the things we do is by mimicking. Everything we learn is or something has already been done. There is absolutely nothing wrong with it. But I don't want to copy what, as they say in Hindi, maki ka maki copying is not what I am talking about. Okay?
Yes. One last question, sir. This is from Dr. Anil Kumar, who is the president of IIC at NMAM. How to attract youth to take up Atmanirbhar challenges?
To whom is this question? Who should answer this question?
Anybody, any of you could take it up.
I think we have talked too much. We will give it to Professor Shashikant to answer this question.
I think I have answered this one in my talk earlier, that they must have the knowledge plus skill plus attitude. Earlier we used to say knowledge is the power. Now that saying has gone. Now knowledge plus skill is the power. That also has gone. Knowledge plus skill plus attitude. So in the National Board of Accreditation also they say knowledge plus skill plus attitude, and with good communication and attitude. For once they have attitude, they will have everything to change. As I told, learn, unlearn, and relearn. So communication, then keep learning, continuous learning or lifelong learning. This is what is very essential for them. Once they do that, then there is an urge for innovation, and that is the way they can do anything. That is what the main thing is, to be put within quotes, is attitude. That matters a lot. That creates interest, and everything will be following that. Okay, now as a panelist, very quick, I will put to the two panelists, if you don't mind. Which see, China, I had gone to China way back in 1989. So that time it was expanding. Whatever we see, I had of my generation people at that time, they were college like students. They were telling how China is expanding in a big way. Several, like maybe thousands of universities they put in all across China in 1989, and several PhD. That is what the result we see today. And people are saying, if you go to China, in houses they make semiconductors and all in household. That is what is the thing is happening today. So that is one model, China model. Then, as Mr. Mohan has said, Europe. I think Europe mainly it is government supported program in the universities. That is what I also saw. I don't know much in depth, but in the surface what I saw, it is mostly government funded work is happening in Europe. But America has a different model. America has more of innovation as an individual based, more like, as Dr. Atre has said, it is more like the medium type of industry they flourished. So that is what different models are there, and which model will suit for India. So that is what I answer for Dr. Anil Kumar's question. I also want answer from other co-panelists.
I want to add something here. You see, you must look at the total. Information by itself is insufficient. Information now today is available on web everywhere. Information must be converted to a little bit of knowledge. And in our context, the knowledge which we use must be innovative to produce a product. Product for what? The product application is not global, it's regional. About 4 or 5 years back, or maybe 6 years back, when I was running the NPMAS program, we had a student competition in Coimbatore. We got half a dozen the MEMS pressure kits from Bharat Electronics. Gave it to 6 different groups to look at their own application. All of them were given 2 days to wire it up and demonstrate the application. Not one of the applications was identical, but they used the same components and subsystems. All of them thought one did a pressure sensor for water measurement. One built an automatic switch-on system for her mother's burner, looking at the pressure. The other one looked at the motion entry system. If somebody comes, the light will go off on their own, and otherwise, as soon as they leave, the light shut off. So you see, the same components can be used for different applications. So information is not enough. Information conversion to knowledge, knowledge conversion to a product that is applicable in the local environment. That local environment product may not be able to be sold globally. You must look at the global environment model. So the question of how you do it is really what is called innovation. Innovation doesn't necessarily mean something new. The innovation means doing something different from what it exists. So if you can think unconventionally, you must be able to think unconventionally. If all of us think absolutely conventionally, we will produce the same kind of products. That is the essential part of it. That is why this word innovation has become so important. Because with the same components, you keep producing different kinds of systems, do different kinds of things. That is the key.
One small thing I wanted to add is you see the pattern more than the result. The way, for example, we talk so much of China, but they did it very strategically and very focused. It's not that they try to do it with heroics. They had a strategy. So you see the universities, not just the sheer number of universities, it's also the quality of the publications, the quality of patents and the IPs that they focused on. Today, in any new technology, what we talk of, 1 in 3 publications or papers are from China. Either people within the country or their people working in other universities. But you see that they have that as a fundamental strategy. So this cannot be just tackled by following somebody. It has to be done with the strategy. So that's why it's very important that universities are part of the strategy making in Atmanirbhar. It's not just about using Atmanirbhar. It's about being part of the Atmanirbhar in the strategy making to say which part of the Atmanirbhar will universities occupy to make it successful. So I think that's the topic that we need to answer because the China model is for when Mr. Mao closed the country for a couple of decades to build this ecosystem. We can't close that. We're a democracy. So we have to look at a different way of doing things, and that should be through a focused effort. Yeah, that's my last.
Thank you, sir. There are a couple of more questions, but then due to lack of time, I think we will summarize this here. India is today transitioning from a situation where it opened its doors to liberalization and globalization to one where it has to rearm itself to become a competitive manufacturing hub, a self-reliant country that can face wars and pandemics, and a comfortable investment destination where the world can relocate to capitalize on its huge and talented manpower and geographic advantages. In history, when India believed in the Gandhi's model of self-reliance, wonders happened. He articulated it as a social interdependence and mutual cooperation in society. On the contrary, today, a virus has violated our independence, but we should all be vocal for local and adapt to the new lifestyle of being mutually interdependent and becoming empowered. As we have now come to the end of this panel discussion, it becomes my duty to place on record my gratitude to the people who made this event possible. Showing gratitude is one of the simplest yet most powerful emotions that can be expressed. I'd like to express my deep sense of gratitude to Sri N. Vinay Hegde, Chairman, Nitte Education Trust, for inspiring and supporting all the activities at NMAM Institute of Technology. I would also like to express my sincere thanks to Dr. Niranjan Chiplumkar, Principal, NMAM Institute of Technology, for all his guidance and support. I also place on record my gratitude to Sri Pankaj Pandey, MIC, Ministry of Education, Government of India. My thanks goes out to Sri Deepan Sahu, MIC, Ministry of Education, Government of India. I'm immensely grateful to Dr. V.K. Atre, former scientific advisor to the Raksha Mantri and Director General DRDO, as well as Sri Mohan Bivi, Chief Expert, Head, Technology, Strategy, Innovation and Incubation, RBEI, for sharing their thoughts and expertise during this panel discussion. I'm sure the participants have gained immensely from today's deliberations. Dr. Shashikant Karinka, Professor and Head, Department of Mechanical Engineering has been instrumental in organizing today's event. Thank you, sir, for all the efforts you've put in. My sincere thanks to Dr. Anil Kumar HS, President, IIC, NMAM Nitte, as well as Dr. Narendra KC and Dr. Shiv Kumar VR, coordinators, IIC, NMAM Nitte, for the meticulous planning and execution of this event. I would also like to thank all the people directly and indirectly involved in organizing this event. Without the enthusiastic participation, no event can be a success. I therefore thank all the participants for your involvement. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.